Hello everybody, it's Tinyla with news from Life at Pecan Cottage. And it's been a while since I've shared anything with you guys for several reasons. And one, I filmed some things, but my tripod broke and my selfie stick thing was missing and all kinds of things with that. So even though I filmed it, the quality was really bad. Part one. Part two is I was breathing so heavily that it was just kind of hard for even me to listen to. So we'll be redoing those things, and they were our morning routine and things like that. But I wanted to come on here and talk about why I was breathing so heavily. So we are currently, at the time of this filming, 14 weeks pregnant. And it's a blessing because we've had some real struggles with different things with pregnancies. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that story with you today. This is March, and amongst other things that are going on with the quarantining and all that kind of stuff, let me pause just to say that our family, we don't go out to eat very much anyway. We homeschool, so that didn't change for us. So the most that we've been affected is we weren't able to go to 4-H. They've canceled all 4-H activities and things like that for the time being. That's about it. My husband works at Walmart, and of course he pastors, but to make ends meet a little bit better, more easily, he works at Walmart full time. So he has been working really hard, harder than usual because they've had more product coming in and things like that. So put that aside. Back to the topic at hand. This is March, which is Trisomy Awareness Month. So I have been pregnant a total of 8 times, and I have 4 living children. I'm expecting now, and I had 2 miscarriages. One before this pregnancy. I'm gonna say the miscarriage began at around 12 weeks. That's when I started really cramping, maybe 11, but really cramping and things like that, and wondering if everything was okay. Not only that, I wasn't having the normal pregnancy symptoms that I was used to with the other pregnancies. And then before that pregnancy, I had a stillborn, Braden, and that's mostly what I want to talk about today is Trisomy 18. Somewhere around week 10, because of my age, I got to do the little blood test where you find out the gender of the baby. In the past, my husband didn't want to know. He wanted to be surprised. So sometimes I would find out. Well, no, every time I would find out, and then I would just keep it to myself until the baby was born. And we did that with 3 of the 4 that I have now. So anyway, I told him with that pregnancy, I don't want to have to keep it a secret. I want to know since I can find out. So they did the blood work at week 10, primarily because I wanted to know what the gender was. And it was a boy. The bad news was I had all the markers for a chromosome disease. So my first response was to reject. Things were going well in life. We felt like we were experiencing a year of increase. God was really blessing. And then to have somebody tell me that the baby probably wouldn't make it to 20 weeks was a real blow. And my first response was they don't know what they're talking about. But then we were scheduled to go to Little Rock to the big hospital, and our whole family went, but I was the only one that went back into the room where they did the ultrasound. The specialist came in and they showed me all these things that were wrong with our baby boy, whom we named Braden. And they said he probably wouldn't make it to week 20 or 21. He had so many things going wrong with his brain. His belly was pretty much outside of his body. I mean, there were some really horrific things. I'm not going to give you all the details, but it just looked really bad. So I'm not a crier, but I just burst into tears, like the whole ugly mess cry. And the nurses didn't know what to do. They just kind of, there was two nurses. They just stood there, and the doctor, who seemed to be a Christian or man of faith, and he just said, you have a strong support system. You have a church home, which is, a lot of medical professionals are not comfortable doing that. And I told him, I'm a pastor's wife. My husband is the pastor, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I went back to the car. I showed my husband all the pictures, and he was just blown away. And the ride home was very quiet. But at that point, we decided that as Christians, we have a right to pray, and we have a right to hope for miracles and many blessings and things like that. So that's what we did. And we put it on Facebook and asked all of our friends to pray. And the love and things that we received through that was really a blessing. So we went back a month or two later, and it was almost as if God was going to heal him. All the horrible things that they said before, he only had a cyst. His belly still wasn't doing what it was supposed to, but at that point, the doctor, which was a different doctor, was talking about surgery. And I don't know if I already said, he just had a little cyst on his brain, which could go away. The other ones had already gone away. He was very active, moved around a lot. Even in the ultrasound, they gave us this little movie DVD thing that we could play at home. He looked exactly like my son, Raymond Deshawn. And he was doing well. So then we went back again, and he was still doing well. And some of the problems had worked themselves out. So we go back. Week 36, even that morning, I felt some movement and stuff, because somewhere around 6 in the morning, he was always very active. So I woke up 6, baby's moving around, everything's great. We go for our 36-week check-in. Mind you, they told me that he probably would not make it to week 21. So week 36, we go in the room, and she did the ultrasound thing. Number one, he's not moving. And I was like, oh, he's asleep. Look at that, how sweet. He looks so peaceful. He didn't have any signs of death or anything like that. No swelling, no anything. But when she put the thing on that shows the blood flow, there was no movement. So the nurse said, I'll be right back. She left. She didn't come back. Another lady came back. No doctor. We never saw a doctor. She came back and said that he had passed. And looking back, I probably should have made a complaint or something, because the way she handled it was not very professional. She just told us that the baby was dead. We should have expected it to happen. And they escorted us out of the room and to the door. They didn't want us going back through where the patients and things are waiting, which is how we'd always come before. We came through one door, we left through the same door. Well, this time we didn't. So we left. We were very quiet. We went, drove home, and we cried, and the kids were with us. I don't know if I mentioned that in the room. So wise decision or not, I'm not sure. We go through things as a family. Kids should be shielded from some things, but there were going to be hard days ahead. And I kind of I would speak through that with my children, because, my husband would be at work. I'm at home with the babies. If I'm having a rough day, I need them to know why. I needed them to know that it was okay for them to have hard days in the future. So blah, 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 blah. All of that happened. So we buried him. It was funny because he passed, not funny. He passed, I believe it was on the 7th. And so the next Sunday was Time Change Sunday. And it's the spring forward. So I woke up that morning and started having contractions. And I said, wouldn't I have a baby on Time Change Sunday when everybody's rushing to get to church? So we called all the church people and told them that we probably would not be having services, that I was going to the hospital. and that if everybody would pray that everything went well. And so I delivered him, I believe it was the 9th, 2 years ago. So here we are to date, because this video is getting really long. I don't want to minimize the experience because it was life-changing for us. It was faith-changing for us. You know, you feel like you're untouchable sometimes as a Christian, like bad things are not going to happen to you. But God does not promise that. He does say that he's going to be with us. He does promise that if we are living for him, that he's going to work it out for our good. So that does not mean that we will never experience anything bad. If God allowed his own son to be crucified, what makes us think that we will never have a hard day, you know? Anyway, we go on, and I started my cycle. Life is, you know, getting back to normal. Then I, about a year later, miss some cycles, and I'm like, oh my word. And not to be graphic, but even having intercourse with my husband afterward, when I knew I was fertile, it was an emotional thing for me. It was hard because I didn't want, you know, you get pregnant and you could miscarry, or you could have a baby and it could be stillborn, or all these things are going through your mind in the moment, which is not very romantic. So I will be marking this video not for kids, by the way. So came to be, I was pregnant with the next one in a matter of time. And I made an appointment for the doctor, but I could tell that something wasn't right somewhere around week 8. So I have a midwife friend. She said, well, I could try to see if you could get a heartbeat with my Doppler thing, but it doesn't usually pick up to week 10. So when we didn't hear a heartbeat at that point, it wasn't a big deal. I usually wait to go to the doctor until week 10 anyway, so I made an appointment, but she was so booked up that she wasn't able to see me until week 12. No big deal, I'll go to a clinic. It's free, I know the people. I worked at a pregnancy center for a while, so that's what I did. The day I went in was like week 12, day 1. There was no heartbeat, and I really started spotting really bad that very day. And she saw that, you know, when you do your urine sample, she said, you know, that's a lot of blood. I said, yeah. So we don't find a heartbeat. We know that the baby's going to pass. I scheduled to go into the doctor. Once again, they're still booked, and they weren't going to be able to see me anytime. Like, in my brain, I should have been able to go in like immediately, but whatever. Maybe I didn't communicate well. We go out to eat, and I go to the bathroom, and I miscarry at the restaurant. And it was just really hard, because what do? The baby was developed enough that I was able to see a real child. So I just cleaned up my mess, told my husband, you know, I need to go to the store and get some new clothes. We did that. We went home. 2 days later, he had to go out of town to a veterans thing. So I drove him to his thing, and the kids and I were going to go look around town. But, you know, that day there was a medical scene. I dropped him off. I got in the car to switch driver's seat, and everything just came out that was left. And there was a lot of blood. And I told the kids, okay, kids, teaching moment. This is what happens when a mommy has a baby. And da-da-da-da-da. Look at all this, you know. That's how we handled it. And they were like, oh, wow. Okay, so you guys stand around, because this is family business. We don't want everybody else to know what's going on. So they stood around, and I had a bunch of napkins and wipes and stuff in the car. So I cleaned up, and then once again went inside, told my husband, I'm going to have to go get some clothes, and came back home, cleaned up, and then I made an appointment with my physician, went in, they checked everything. I had... I think it's called spontaneous abortion. Everything was fixing itself. Shortly after, I had a regular cycle, and then 2 months later, I missed my cycle again. Now we're pregnant. I'm nervous, but I'm trying to, you know, other people are worried about COVID. I'm just trying to keep my sanity and have a good spirit so that, you know, I believe that a mother's emotions and things can affect the baby and the pregnancy and stuff like that. So I'm reading scripture, quoting stuff to myself to say, you know, God has me, and I know him, he knows me, and he's not going to give me more than I can handle going through all these things in my brain. So I didn't want to share anything until I knew as much as humanly possible that everything's okay. So to end out the video, guys, we are 14 weeks along. It's a baby girl. I did that same test, and everything looks normal. Big bold letters. No, all her measurements are normal. There's no deformities, no chromosome issues. Baby's active. Baby's measuring right on for what she should be. So we are excited about that. Whatever happens, God is good, and we're going to trust him. But I'm thankful for all the good news that we're able to hear thus far with pregnancy number 8. So her name will be Zoe Shanice Raven Beckles. And I wrote 5 names down if we had a girl. And my husband picked 3 of them, and he said, I want all of them. So that's what it is. Zoe Shanice Raven Beckles. So thank you guys for bearing through this video. If you have had a similar experience, please let me know in the comments. And this won't be the only video that I share probably today, but I just wanted to kind of keep in contact, and now that my mind has been eased a little bit, I feel comfortable filming again. Plus I found my selfie stick tripod thing, so here we are back in business. So thank you guys again for watching, and until next time.